So hello everybody, this is Warren Marshall from Gala Games, and welcome to the second developer log for Town Crush. So I know it's been a little while since the last devlog, but the reason for that is actually pretty good. We're going to look at some tools today. Tools are a huge part of game development for me. Having good tools leads to great content is generally the philosophy I try to live by. This came from my past career when I worked on the Unreal editor, and all the little projects I've done along the way. The predominantly separating thing between companies that have good content and great content is having a solid tool set for the designers to use. Now, for someone that hasn't had to work with bad tools in the past, this might sound like a little bit of overkill, but if you've ever had to work on a project where you had to design levels in like Maya or Blender, for example, or set up a quest system using Excel, or you needed to paint your world map in Photoshop, you're using a certain palette, so each color related to a certain kind of tile and that kind of jazz. It's just slow, painful, and it just screams out for a good tools developer to be on the team. So I was struggling a little bit with trying to figure out how to demonstrate this to you, but we'll just kind of walk through the user interface. Before I even click the button, I want to make it clear this is very early stuff. It's just barely functional, but you will get a very good sense of the fun possibilities here. So let's dig in. If I click this editor button, we end up on the paint screen. These are different modes the editor can be in, and we'll go through them. But the paint mode is the basic, obviously, painting mode. So you got your world origin here, the X and Y axis, and if I click and drag, I'm laying down these boxes. These boxes represent spots where icons can spawn. So I'm defining the shape of my level. I can make a whole section up here, maybe over there if I don't want these. If I want to connect these, I just draw a few in the center there. And that's really all there is to it. You click and drag. You click on one that's already there, you erase it, you click on a blank spot, you're adding. And one of the neat things about this is you can see this border around the outside. That's being automatically generated whenever you change the level. So if you've noticed that in Town Crush before, all the levels have a border around them. And that's not me placing things. That's the game is automatically filling that in for me, which is the kind of thing I really love as a nerd, basically. As a code nerd, that makes me happy. So the Tools tab. Tools tab is simply a spot where functionality goes that I don't know where it should go long term. But it's just a quick little utility thing. You can clear the level, you can shift it around by entire cells, you can recenter it on the world origin, that kind of thing. The Camera tab. Now this brings up some scroll bars and things, because I want you to be able to make levels, either small levels that are up close or large levels where you have to get back a little bit, right? So this one's kind of zoomed out. But if we zoom back, you can get levels about that small. If you zoom in, you can make your cells really big. So this is like the first level of your campaign. You might want to have a small little section here in the center that is just, let me zoom back and get rid of this stuff. That is just these here, because you want to show somebody how to play the game, right? So you do something like this. So that's the zoom level that I want to have. Now these other bars are for moving it vertically and horizontally. So you can use these to get it centered on the board. And I might try to automate this later in the future, add some button for auto centering, but right now this is what it does. You just manually do it. And the most fun thing is that we can now hit the play button down here. You have to go try this level out. So let's do that. Play, and I land on the level. And I can just go ahead and play the level out and see how it feels. You see if I like it. Is it fun? Is it too hard? That kind of thing. Oh, I love that. So anyway, when you're done with here, there's an editor button inside of here where you can click and get back to the editor and continue to refine your layout, do whatever you want with it, and then hop back in and do some more testing. It's just kind of that's the key to a good editing tool, is that iteration loop is tight, right? Let me put these back. The final tab we haven't looked at is the Levels tab. Now the Levels tab is where you define how the level plays. So if I go to the Levels tab, like I say, this is early, right? But you could do good stuff in here, right? Like, I can change the name of the level. So this would be, Discord's Lament. I could pick how many colors I want to have appear on the board at one time, right? So if I pick 3 and jump in here, you can see this is a pretty easy board. And it's one of those levels that'll kind of play itself, right? Because there's not that many options for making matches. But if I want to see how else that would play out, I can go back and choose like 6 colors and then hop back in. I mean, 6 colors, you see there's a lot less options to play with, and that's one of the ways you can ratchet up the difficulty on a level, is just change the number of colors. But let's say that we're just doing a regular level, pick 4 colors. The compelling thing here is that we're going to have these different goals, right? And this list down here is dynamic. So right now there's 2 items in it, but I can delete that goal and just have a score goal. And if you do it this way, the game's going to try and be dynamic and accommodate what you're trying to do. So if I'm in here and I hit play now, we jump into the level, but there's no moves indicator in the top right corner. That's gone, and it's just a score limit. So essentially, the player could just play until they hit the score limit. This might be a good way to teach people how to play the game without, adding a ton of pressure. And as more game types get added, we're going to use this space here for adding icons and things like that. But that's the general vibe behind this section here. So if I want to add a moves goal in, I just hit the add button. I say, yep, this is a moves limit, and you get 12 moves to complete the level. And let's say I want a 5,000 point score limit. Great, so hit play now, and the moves indicator's back. There's 12. You see our 5,000 limit is up there, and this will give you a great way to just play with different kinds of limits and different kinds of. Now, granted, there's no way here to. Eventually, what'll happen is that this UI will. I'm thinking of having some green check marks appear or something as you hit these limits, but it won't actually stop the game when you're in editor mode. That's getting a little sidetracked, though. But that's the basics for how I want the level editing to work. So, that's the grand tour. I hope you thought that was interesting, at least. So, that's the level editor. Well, as a preview, anyway. All that UI will likely be changing, and there's going to be a lot more functionality added, I'm sure, over time, but the basics are there. And that's very important to me, to get those basics laid down. Actually, this is the way that I develop most things. I will start with something very brute force and just gets the job done. Looks a little ugly, looks a little janky, but it works. Then if it proves out to be something that I want to keep, well, then we'll expand it out, we'll refine it, we'll add new graphics, the code will get refactored. All those good and nerdy things that kind of happen behind the scenes. There's lots of advantages to working this way. Some say you kind of repeat your work a little bit, but I think it's more efficient in the end, because you're not spending a lot of time up front to determine whether you want to keep something. So to me, this is an ideal way to work. And really, the most exciting part about this level editor for me is that it opens up the possibility for user-generated content. I mean, yes, we're going to be using this to develop the internal levels for Town Crush, but I really want to have this open for anybody who wants to use it. I'm not promising functionality for the future or anything, but my dream list, or whatever you want to call it, is that users can make their own levels, share them with each other, have some kind of repository where user levels could be uploaded, or collections of user levels, right? Like, this is my 10 level sprint run or something, just competitions, just all kinds of neat stuff. So I think that long term for games, what you really want is user generated content. That's always been my experience. And once you put the tools in the user's hands, they will come out with some amazing stuff. But that's enough for one video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.